Hi everyone, welcome to this very special episode where the passenger terminal loop is finally getting completed. It's been quite a journey, and I gotta say it's an absolute joy being able to see a completed area in this airport for once. And if you have seen any of my previous videos, you might have noticed that the intro has changed appearance. After 2 years I felt it badly needed an update, so if you have any feedback, please leave it in the comment section below. There's gonna be a lot of time lapses in this episode in contrast to my previous episode that featured mostly cinematics. But don't stress, there are going to be cinematics in this episode as well, in between the time lapses and of course in the end. So right now you can see me building the airport's second bus terminal in this airport. I use curbs and ploppable surfaces to flesh out the shape of the terminal area, as well as medium props turned into procedural objects to get more unique shapes. This terminal is, as the first one, completely functional. It has a number of stops on invisible lanes that service a lot of sims going to and from the airport. This terminal doesn't feature functional taxi stands, however, like the first terminal do, but I might add it in the future. Looking back at previous episodes, I realized I've hardly showed off the first bus terminal, so there are going to be some cinematics of both the terminals after this part of the time-lapse ends. As I have a user of procedural objects, I'm absolutely blown away with the latest update of the mod. One of the many new things added is the fine-tuning tool of XYZ coordinates. It really makes things easier when preventing objects from height glitching each other. As you might have noticed, I really like using these medium props by Peluso. They work really nice with the PO mod, and here I use one of the new features, add color rectangle, to create no parking markings without actually having to use decals or more procedural objects. Not sure how much it saves on performance, if any, but it's very handy and speeds up the building process quite a bit. The bus terminal time-lapse is coming to an end, so cinematics will follow in just a few seconds. After that you will see me updating the control tower, building the first airport hotel, and completing the parking inside the terminal loop. St. Creel Airport has two control towers. The first one I made that's inside a terminal loop felt slightly outdated as I made it a year ago back in episode 8. For this updated version I used B. Skokelhausen's control tower from the FPS Airport series, combined with an office building called R-Lab, made by DEC with 2727. I used the office building to hide the blue tinted glass on the control tower, which I felt didn't fit within the airport's color palette and general style. I imagine St. Creel is built during the 70s, with some areas renovated and added during the years 2000 to 2020, so the glass, steel, concrete and grey to brown colors are the key elements in achieving this style. To make the office building flat and make it fit inside the control tower structure, I used another new feature in the PO mod, the stretch tool. It's a great tool as you no longer have to use the vertexes to shrink objects, yet it's more controlled than the general scale tool as you choose to shrink one axis at a time instead of all of them. So here's the finished result. I'm quite pleased with it. The airport has two hotels inside the loop. First one I made was a Clarion hotel on top of a parking garage. But for this second hotel that we're about to make, which will be the larger of the two, I wanted something more of a landmark. So I settled for two large hotel buildings on each side of the sunken highway, connected by a bridge in the same style as the rest of the hotel. To achieve this, I used both the Advanced Addition tool and Vertex tool inside PMod to flatten the main buildings a bit, and the bridge, which is the same asset as the main buildings by a lot. I think it really came together nicely and fit the rest of the airport's theme. I imagine this hotel was built pretty early on. It has a certain 70s or 80s feel to it. To make it really stand out as a hotel and not as just another general office building, I created two hotel logo textures. I chose Sheraton Hotels as a wink to Charles de Gaulle Airport, which is the main inspiration for my project. It also has a giant Sheraton Hotel in the middle of the loop, even though its shape is more organic and modern than my version. As usual, I made the textures I needed in Photoshop, then used it on a basic procedural cube that I flattened and reshaped to make it fit on the hotel facade. After a few versions, I settled for the black and white version of the logo. The last step was detailing the ground around the hotel, making it blend in with the rest of the area. I wanted something of a green oasis in the midst of all these shades of concrete. To achieve this, I used planters, Pidelmo's foliage, animated fountains, and some nice looking decals to give it a flair of luxury, or at least a bit more niceness than the rest of the airport. In the last part of this episode, we are going to create the parkings. I began with trying to make the elevated expressways blend in with the parking level, using invisible lanes to get the functionality and ploppable asphalt and concrete barriers to get the proper look. The making of the parking took a really long time due to that each procedural object took between 30 seconds up to a minute to spawn. As the more objects in the map you have, the longer it takes for each object to spawn. At the moment I have around 35,000 objects in the map. This made copying several or many objects at once a waiting game that required some patience, to say the least. But fortunately this is now fixed in the latest update, which will make the building process so much faster from now on, and that's the biggest game changer for me since I don't know when. Here you see me making a parking sign system using the text customization tool. Within the system, each row has a corresponding letter or letters, and under it is another letter that shows the nearest terminal and an arrow that indicates which way you have to try to reach it. I hope you enjoyed this episode. If you did, please leave a like and subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. If you wonder what mods and assets I used, I'll leave a link to it in the description. Before the episode ends, there will be, of course, a few more cinematics, so stay for some spectacular views of the finished terminal loop, both by night and in daylight, as well as a closer look at the parkings. As the airport comes closer to being finished, the next step will be lighting and detailing of the taxiways and runways, so don't miss out on the next episode. See you then, bye bye.